Alright, welcome to a draft through MTGSpeculation.com. Doing a 64-man right now. Oath of the Gatewatch, first day of release events. We have an interesting pack here. The first three uncommons are all super good. Containment Membrane is fine. It's a decent removal spell, not spectacular. Vampire Envoy is fantastic. Netcaster Spider is actually a lot better than I thought it would be when I first looked at it. Very solid card. Stops things like Vampire Envoy from just getting free life gain triggers, things like that. But this is most likely one of the two red cards. I'm not a huge fan of red, but I don't want to take a gold card. And I don't want to take a lower power level common over Embodiment of Fury. So it's between these two. I think I'm going to take the Tyrant of Valakut. Just for pure upside. It's a nice finisher. Not the way I like to start a draft, but outside of a removal spell, one of the better things to get is a nice finisher. So Vampire Envoy, again here, is a very solid card. One that I like. Sphinx of the Final Word. Similar thing, this thing's basically unkillable. I really don't want to start my draft with two 7-drops. But I think that if I am running a 7-drop, I'm probably not going to end up running both. And maybe I'm not in either color. So I think it's between Tyrant of Valakut and the high quality removal spell and Immolating Glare. Personally, I don't like cards that force your opponent to attack in. If this were symmetrical and you could do it on blocking creatures similar to Sandblast or Gideon's Reproach, that type of thing, I would be a little bit higher on it. It's still great, but I'm just going to take another step. Again, not ideal, but I found that when you find the right colors in this format, you very often have a ton of playables. So the main thing, from my perspective anyways, is finding the correct colors. So Tar Snare is similar to Containment Membrane. It's a fine removal spell. Lower upside than Containment Membrane, but it does deal with it. There are a lot of, rally triggering, not rally triggering, but cohort triggering allies that you want to deal with. Particularly the Gain 2 one. That card can really stall games out. So we have Cultivator Drone, which is fine. Pyromancer's Assault is interesting in the Surge deck. There's also an Expedite for that deck, but I haven't really gone down that path, and I don't want to do it here. So I'm going to go with the safe pick and just take Cultivator Drone. It's on color with the better of my two 7-drops. Okay. So Sweep Away is similar to Immolating Glare, except, it doesn't just kill it and it's more expensive, but it does have utility outside of combat. Dimensional Infiltrator is probably my pick. It's a 2/1 flyer. It's a cheap play. Something that I need pretty badly here. I would like to take the pseudo removal spell. Other than that, there's a fine black card for, the really aggressive black decks. And then there's the opposite side where you have Kozilek's Translator, which is going to be more in your blue-black deck, where you're trying to enable colorless. And that could be where I end up, and I could wheel that card. From this pack, if I do end up sort of blue-based, I'm looking to wheel Sweep Away or Kozilek's Translator. Okay. So here, Devour in Flames is fantastic. It's a really strong card. Later in the game, it can re-trigger landfall, or if you don't have a land drop, you tap 3, return one of those lands, replay it, trigger landfall, which is pretty nice. And it's nice with Surge for that too, because in that situation, if you're on 6 lands or whatever, it effectively costs 2 because you can replay the land and then play a 4-drop. So it's pretty nice in that regard as well. And this is late for this to be here, so maybe we'll be in the market for 2 huge 7-drops. Okay, so other Cultivator Drone is fine, but I'm going to take Hedron Crawler here. There is another Expedite. I'll probably wheel those. I'm not going to wheel much else out of this pack. I highly doubt I'll wheel a Cultivator Drone. But I feel confident that I don't need to look at another color here, and since I have a colorless option, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so yeah, blue-red actually is basically this entire pack, so that's pretty nice. I really like Roiling Waters, but it's another 7-drop in a deck where I already have 2. I would much rather go for a Surge play. Mav Kozilek being a fine card as well. Might actually be the pick here. I do already have a Cultivator Drone and a Hedron Crawler, and this guy can get through for a lot of damage. Seer's Lantern I like. It ramps me to my bigger creatures as well. There's also a Wastes. But yeah, I think I'm going to go cheaper play. Okay, kind of got paid off, a little bit at least. The Mav Kozilek, Goblin Freerunner is still probably is going to come down on turn 4. We're roughly in the ballpark of 4 mana, depending on what you played beforehand. I'm going to take Mav Kozilek. It's a nice little card. Wow. That card should not be here. Netcaster Spider probably shouldn't be here. It's a signal that green's open at least a little bit. Maybe the packs were just weak for it. Because these were the 2 best green cards in this pack. This pack was pretty powerful though. I might just take a Waste. I already have 2 enablers. Maybe I don't need one. I could hedge a little bit towards like landfall if I want to drop my 2 drops in blue. I'm going to take a Waste. Okay, so I'll drop. Wow. Okay, so this is a really late Gravity Negator. It's a card I like a lot. Comparative Analysis is not a payoff for being Surge. And Eldrazi Aggressor is just not a good card. Okay, so Expedite. I don't like Cinder Hellion, to be honest. I think there are better 5 mana plays. I'm gonna go with Expedite. Just for sheer upside, if you see something like Zada and BFC packs, that type of thing, pretty good. It's card acceleration if I desperately need it. And if I end up with enough Surge, I'll run it. And right now it does look, I have 1, 2, 3. I probably won't run Comparative Analysis. 3 Surge cards already. I'd love to see a couple Boulder Salvos, that type of thing. And that might actually be enough to pull me in further to red. The nice thing with this opening pack is every single pick was on color, even though some weren't great. Okay, so here, Oblivion Strike is fantastic. I'm off it at this point though. I'm pretty heavily blue-red. Oath of Jace will probably wheel, and it's not a good card. I'm a little heavy on 4s. Comparative Analysis, is probably already in the sideboard. So Sweep Away is nice interaction in blue, but the nice thing about this pairing is that red has a ton of removal, both in this set and in BFC. So I'm going to take the 4-drop that I passed up on in my opening pack to get the Tyrant. Nice card to apply pressure. There's a Slip Through Space. That'll certainly wheel. Cultivator Drone, Seer's Lantern, Sweep Away, and Mav Kozilek. A lot of cards I could wheel there. Okay. This pack's slightly less exciting. There's a ton of good green stuff. Nissa's Judgment is absurdly good. Sometimes it's really hard to recover from this sometimes. Oftentimes it feels like Grip of Desolation from the previous set where it's kind of a 2-for-1. Their guys get too big to block, generally speaking, and they kill a huge card. I'm probably on Blinding Drone though. Again, I have a Waste, I have Cultivator Drone, Hedron Crawler, Gravity Negator once colorless. It's not the greatest on the Surge deck necessarily, but at least it's a cheap play. On turn 4 I can play this and, Goblin Freerunner or whatever. I could very likely just end up in more of a controlling blue-red shell that's trying to finish the game with these bigger cards. Okay, so Isle Avenger is the Surge card that I want to see, more than Goblin Freerunner, generally speaking. I value a 3/3 flyer a lot more than a 3/2 menace. 2 toughness is pretty low in this format. There's a lot of stuff that kills it. Tar Snare is ranked as low as it is mostly because there's just not a ton of 2 toughness guys that are hugely relevant. Like usually it's going to be trading down in mana. But anyways, from this pack I can wheel the Freerunner and Void Shatter. Even Warden of Geometries maybe. But I like the Isle Avenger here. Okay. So Brute Strength. It's a reasonable card. I don't really like it though. I don't think my deck's trying to push for damage super hard. I definitely don't want another comparative analysis. I would need to see like 4 more of these cantrips before I felt like, my deck was going to be able to efficiently just churn through my deck, and get threats out on the cheap while still getting through the deck. So I'm going to take a 5. I'm not a huge fan of this card. Okay, well this is nice. I have Sweep Away. Coom Flameseeker is nice for digging, but I only have one other ally. Oh, 2. I guess Entangler's one as well. But I'm going to go with Profit here. I picked up a Waste. I'm in more of a controlling shell. I don't have a ton of removal yet, but I feel confident that I'll still be able to find some. And Cultivator Drone, at this point, it's still an important card, but I think I could wheel one. And the opportunity cost of passing on, a fairly great uncommon, in this deck at least, is pretty high. Pyromancer's Assault is an interesting card. If I had like more Boulder Salvos or something like that, I would be more excited to take it here. It's definitely the pick because there's just nothing else for me. There's a Slip Through Space, but again, I don't think that's going to really impact my decision making. Unity of Purpose is a card that I like a lot. I've only played with it one other time, and it was fantastic when I played with it. Untap and pump effects are super, super effective. 4 mana feels fairly innocuous. You're not at Royal's Retribution mana. That type of thing. Some of the white blowout spells. When you go to all-out attack. Again, there's a Slip Through Space. That type of thing, but I need spells, so I'll take it. Wow. So green turned out to be very open in these packs. I think that some of them, the power level's just been sort of off and on. This is a very good card. Saddleback is also great. I'm just going to take analysis. I think, okay, so Sweep Away came back. That's a big deal. Seer's Lantern as well. So blue's also open. Maybe it's red is the color that I'm in that's not open, at least not coming from this direction. It is clear that green's open, though. Just didn't really see the signals until a little bit too late to go in. And again, it's not like I have red cards that synergize super well with like the landfall deck. I really don't like green-blue at all. And in a lot of formats I do. That's a color combination that generally I like to play. Okay, Void Shatter. Nice pickup. Okay, so like I said, we're already at 20 playables. Obviously, some are pretty marginal. The Expedites. 2 7-drops is probably too many. But otherwise it's good. I mean, outside of the 2 oh god. So Bonesaw is going to tempt me. I probably should have taken the green pump spell, but I feel like there's only one green drafter at the table. And it was open in both directions, so I doubt they're on my immediate left or right. Okay, so overall, I'm really happy with how the OGW packs went. What I'm missing, basically, is removal. I have a lot of card acceleration. With Profit, I have some control, with Blinding Drone, some early drops, to stabilize the board. A lot at 4 and 5, I have some solid threats. And then I have 2 big finishers. I'll probably have to decide on one of the 2. Unfortunately, Cultivator Drone doesn't actually effectively help me ramp towards them because neither one is colorless. So that's not ideal, but Hedron Crawler can at least do that. Something like a Hedron Archive in the BFZ pack would be fantastic. Things like Clutch of the Void would be pretty much perfect Clutch of Currents. This really is a Clutch of Currents deck. The only issue is I also kind of need 3 drops. So, Eldrazi Sky Spawners, that type of thing would be great as well. We sort of got, half the Devoid, half the Surge stuff for this deck. Isn't, but I'm fairly happy with where it's at. Wow. Okay, so none of the removal, but we got Endless One, which is great. Bane of Bala gets also great, but I have 2 7-drops. This one with the upside of being, castable with Cultivator draw mana. But Endless One is just a perfect card. It is efficient at every cost, except for 2, basically. Yeah. I think this is going to be the pick. I mean, maybe I wheel Wavewing, not really something I want. Royal Mage's Trick, Processor Assault, there's almost no way I'm going to be able to enable that. Same thing with Belligerent Whiptail. Maybe I end up, taking a Blighted Land out of this pack on the wheel, just as another colorless source. But yeah, I'm really happy with that pick. So there's a Hedron Archive, which is a card I certainly am interested in. It helps me get to my 7 drops, which is going to be very important for this deck. Again, it's card acceleration. There's also a Nettle Drone, which is enabled by 9 of my cards, which is pretty good. I don't think I even counted the profit. This is a really interesting pick. I'm pretty heavy on creatures. I do still need 3 drops, but the Hedron Archive is exactly what I want in this deck. Okay. This pack, much less so. Ulamog's Reclaimer. Again, I don't have many ways to exile, just the Void Shatter at this point, I believe. Yep, that's it. So I'm going to take Tightening Coils. It's a fine removal spell, it's a cheap play. Okay. This is interesting. Spell Shrivel was very good in BFC, but this format's quite a bit faster. Murkstrider, again, I'm just not really processing. Dampening Pulse is fantastic, but I'm really getting full at the 4-drop slot in this deck, and that's without any comparative analysis shenanigans. So let's just look. Without the Expedites, we're fairly light on removal. We have a Counterspell, a Sweep Away, and a Devour, and that's pretty much it. Tyrant of Valakut maybe counts. I think that we're probably on Dampening. The card's really great. Oof. Again, an interesting pick here. Cancel's not a card I'm super excited about. And a lot of my search stuff isn't at instant speed, they're creatures, generally speaking. So let's get a quick head count again. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 colorless cards to trigger Nettle Drone. It's mostly just going to be a 3-1. Alright, I'm going to take the counterspell. Do I take another one? This is interesting because this is not a deck that I've drafted in this format at all. It's pretty interesting so far. I mean, do I want to run 3 counters? I don't really think so. But I'm running controlling deck where I have 3 bombs at the top of my curve. I'm light on removal. I need to be able to answer threats. I can stall out the board, use Blinding Drone to get to the late game, where Sphinx and Tyrants should be able to just pick away at people in the air. This answers this empty spot in my curve. Is that another 5-drop or a bad 2-drop? Kozilek Sentinel is a fine card, but not in this deck. Desolation Twin. We're not going that deep. So Wavewing, again, there's not really a card that's great in my deck. I'll take Rush though. And there's another one. Whoops, what did I just bounce out there? Oh, the Cinder Hellion, which might not actually make the deck. I'm probably going to take another Rush of Ice in this spot. No. I'm not Wavewing in this deck though. Okay, this is our open, which was pretty medium. We didn't see any of the premier cards we wanted, really. At common, anyways. We saw a couple Nettle Drones, but it was just too close with some of our other picks. Well, take Royal Mage's Trick for the sideboard. Our curve is not fantastic, to say the least. There was a Boiling Earth that I think will be in the next pack if it happened to wheel. I guess I'll just take another Wavewing. Maybe I take a Plummet. Protect my few flyers. There's just really nothing going on there. Ooh, okay. Ulamog's Reclaimer. I still only, well, now I have 2 ways. It's still not enough. I suppose Dimensional Infiltrator is sort of a backdoor way to exile as well. Probably not going to main deck it. If I end up in a really grindy matchup, I'll be happy to go with it. Okay. Well, I'll take Scour. We have Removal Light. Maybe we side it in. Again in a slow match. Slab Hammer, not something we're interested in. Okay, so that's actually a nice pickup. Okay, so this draft was a little bit wonky, but I'm pretty happy with where we're at. I do not like cancels in limited, but if there's a for it, I think this is the one. You know, Umara Entangler feels out of place, I think, in this deck. The odds that I'm beating down are very, very low. Oh, so we're going to have to wait for everyone to finish since this is 64 man. I forgot about this. Can take quite a while. So we'll just take a quick look and then I'll pause it. But for colorless sources, we have 3, 4, which should be adequate for, I think we're just on Blinding Drone and Dimensional Infiltrator. Oh, Mob Kozilek, I suppose. So 3 things that need to be enabled, and we have 4 sources. I think that's enough. Yeah, that's pretty good. Early creatures, I think we're likely to cut Umara Entangler. It just seems like it's going to fall prey to all the 2/3s in the format. Maybe I side it in. But I do also just need early plays. Endless One, if he's in my opening hand, is very often just going to be played on turn 3. Or maybe I hold up a counter spell if I'm not behind on board. Actually, yeah, I think I will run the Umara Entangler for that reason, that I do want to have a turn 2 play to just get onto board if I'm very likely to be playing a counter spell on turn 3. You know, the majority of my turn 3 plays are counter spells, actually. Unity of Purpose might not really fit in this deck. You know, my cards that want to attack are Embodiment, Goblin Freerunner, Mav Kozilek, Gravity Negator, I guess. Oh yeah, I have guys that want to attack. My early drops don't want to attack. That's the main thing. But that might just be the cut. Yeah, I think that makes sense. This is almost certainly an 18 land deck. So there's going to be one more cut. I just want to have this sorted before I can even go to sideboard. Or before my sideboard moves up here and I can actually submit. I am going to run 1 wastes, which is another reason that's pulling me towards running 18 lands, in addition to the fact that I have 2 7-drops and an X spell. I'm going to run the 2 7-drops though. They are both capable of finishing the game. My deck can stall. Maybe Goblin Freerunner is probably a cut. I just don't see any benefit to surging it out in this deck. A lot of times it's just going to be a 4 mana 3/2 because I have things I want to be doing with my mana. You know, I have a couple mana sinks here and there, some better than others, but yeah, I'm going to cut the Freerunner and look at something more like this. You know, it gives me 3 ways to sort of ramp, although Cultivator Drone doesn't really ramp me, it's more of a fixer. And a couple cards on the top of the curve. It actually looks a lot better now that I look at it this way. 2 7-drops just feels extreme, but I'm actually fairly happy with this. I'm interested to see how it runs. I'm fairly likely to just get run over by aggressive decks, but I have a ton of good sideboard options. You know, Royal Mage's Trick, even Pyromancer's Assault, bringing in a couple Expedites, Rush of Ice, that type of thing can be decent against an aggressive deck to just try to pick some creatures off. Cycle through my deck to find my cards that'll stabilize me. But alright, I'm going to pause it. I'll see you guys when I have the finished product. Alright, so finally everything's done. Okay, so our curve is, you know, all the way up to forever. Looking in the sideboard, sort of the last cut was Goblin Free Runner. If I'm going to be holding up counter spells a decent amount of the time, I just don't see what the window is where I cast this. You know, maybe I hold on to Prophet, I play Blinding Drum, then I play Prophet Free Runner on turn 3. Like, yeah, that's a good turn, but that's like never going to happen. And I have things that I want to do on 4 mana. So I'm just going to add lands to this and run with it. Much more heavily blue. I think I like 10. I like 9/7 actually. Because I have the Skyline Cascade. 10 should be plenty. And we'll run with that. See you guys in round 1.